Gentleman from the 42nd District, Representative Buys.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A few years back in 1949, we put in place a tax exemption for hog fuel. And we actually revisited that tax again this year and heard a little bit more about it. And that was a tax for some of our lumber mills and such that they use their byproduct as a fuel source in the process of manufacturing the product. Well, we also have refineries. We're blessed to have 5 refineries in Washington State, which, if I could, just a few of the statistics, over 2,000 jobs with an average salary of $120,000 per person at our refineries, plus over 3,000 jobs in contractors. Our refineries, they put $261 million of taxes already into Washington State. And so now we're asking them, when in the process they have a byproduct such as butane or propane, which comes off their cracking tower and oftentimes seconds later is burned as a fuel source so that they don't have to buy fuel from outside of the refinery, we now want to put a tax on that and say, well, you should be paying a use tax on that fuel that's existed for 5 seconds or 10 seconds or however long it is. This is how ridiculous we're starting to get. If we want consistency, that's one thing, but then, are we going to tax a farm for taking milk and feeding it to a calf? Well, you're using that as an input. It was produced on the farm, you're inputting it over here. Or the biosolids that are produced on a farm, you're producing electricity. Are we going to start taxing that too? Mr. Speaker, these are some of the things that are just so ridiculous about this tax bill. $261 million in taxes is what this industry already puts in. At what point do we say, yes, you've been taxed enough? We say, they got to pay their fair share. Well, nobody ever gives us a definition of what is their fair share. Well, at what point does an industry, does an individual, does a business pay their fair share? Nobody has an answer for that. And we talk about, we need to invest in education. Mr. Speaker, these industries do invest in education, not only through the $120,000 average salary that they pay to their employees, which allows them to go and get a good education, or allows them to pay property taxes or buy a house, which then goes into our education system. But for instance, one of our refineries, ConocoPhillips, used to be ConocoPhillips, now it's Phillips 66. For the last 30 plus years, they've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in the Math Olympiad program, which they are the prime sponsor of. This is a program where statewide, they bring students together. The most brilliant students, more brilliant than any of us in here with regards to math. And they offer them this chance to compete against fellow students from around the state and in our community. If that's not an investment in education, Mr. Speaker, then what is? At what point are we going to say, well, your investment in education isn't as important as our investment in education? Mr. Speaker, I ask you to put down this bill.